are different, you know. So Krishna conscious person dovetails all his activities, that one we saw. But the materialistic person, he does everything for his own sense gratification. So the devotee does for the satisfaction of Krishna.
Krishna conscious person following his duty.
Yeah. Mataji?
Yes, from like in 25th, we see that the person is following his duty.
All is satisfaction of Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Yes, and to set an example so that he does not mislead the people who are not on the same level. He does
Yes.
not mislead the general public. So for that, he does the duty to set a proper example. And he is doing this duty. How he is doing that duty? Yes, that you already answered.
Without attaching to the,
Without attachment to the result. Yes.
Yeah, the results.
The 26th verse. Who would like to cover the 26th verse?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sindhu Mataji. So this is a good way, right? For revision, one verse, one person can take up. You will also get a flow of how the class flowed last time. So yes, who would like to tell me about what we discussed on 26th verse? Yes, Jigisha Mataji.
Sorry, Mataji, I was out last class and I attended, but was not concentrating 100%.
No problem,
I
Mataji.
will not be able to, because I don't have notes also with me.
Okay, Pramataji, no problem. Yes, 26th verse. Geeta Mataji, would you like to try?
Not very sure about it, Mataji.
Okay, Sudha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I think in verse 26, Krishna is describing how a detached person, he should deal with means a person who is attached to the results of the activities that he's performing. And
Yes.
Some people, they might have a lot of material attachment, and some people, they are totally detached. So in that way, like, he's telling us that realize, in the Krishna consciousness, he should not disturb others who are not really interested in doing this Krishna conscious activities. That is what I understood, Mataji.
Yes. Yes, Mataji, very correct. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, so yes, that was right. That a person who is already in Krishna consciousness, he should not be disturbing people who are not on that level, who are too materially attached. The second part of it would be discussed today in 29th verse, where we would see that still the devotees go out of their way and they still try to engage the materialistic people in Krishna conscious activities just to elevate them, elevate their consciousness. So yes, the 27th verse, which was much discussed last time. Anyone on 27th verse, what all we discussed? If I give you a hint, we discussed how a person is not alone the doer. There is Prakriti, whose material nature is providing elements, and Krishna or Paramatma in the heart is the approving authority who is approving. So if he approves, then Prakriti will provide all, she will give us all the facilities, and then whatever we have the desire, we can fulfill. So this way, the 27th verse started, and we discussed in detail that it's not like that we can, that we discussed three things. Okay, Rohini Mataji, would you like to say? I was saying because no one started, yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, in the last verse, that is 27, we spoke about the three types of doers in relation to the modes of nature. That is the soul. The soul desires an activity, material nature facilitates it, and the super soul oversees and approves the action. So I also understand that this will help us, a devotee, how we can apply is that we can understand that I'm not the sole doer. There are so many other doers behind the action. And you also brought our attention to that law of attraction, the difference between law of attraction and the law of karma. That desire does play a role in both, even in the law of attraction, but it's not just the desire. Krishna's sanction is required, and his sanction is based on karma and our sincerity in devotion. Hare Krishna.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Mataji. So yes, this was the most important thing that we were discussing. That one is the law of attraction, which is only solely based on the desired level of the living entity. The second comes is the law of karma, which comes at the prakriti level. That even if a normal, let's say, actually these things are very common for people of the Vedic times. Like even if you just talk to your grandma, grandpa, you would see that they generally understood that okay, if there is something which has gone wrong in their life, they were very easily they could take it, even if it was very difficult for them, but they could still take it that okay, if it was bound to happen, if it was in my karma, then it will happen. So they were not so disturbed, right? So even they accepted the law of karma, which is much more than the law of attraction. And then at the end, we discuss the law of love. That law of love is basically bhakti yoga. So, which means that if we are directly trying to do each and every activity for the satisfaction of Krishna, then what happens is Krishna is the main controller. He is controlling the Prakriti, he is controlling everything. So, if we directly have a relation with Krishna and Krishna is pleased with us, then he can also alter the law of karma for us. And how he can, if he sees that this particular thing is we are about to get it as part of our karma, but if that activity, if that particular thing is going to bewilder us or it will make us disturbed in our path of bhakti, then he might not give it. And if he sees that this particular thing is not for him, as per the law of karma, he's about to lose this particular thing. But if that particular thing is not we are not attached to it, and that is in case helping us to progress in bhakti, then he let it be in our life. So for Krishna, most important thing is how we can go back to him. He is not attached to any of the other things that okay, this person should suffer. Many people have this idea that God wants all the living entities to suffer. So that's not the case. Krishna wants us to come back to him in the best possible way. He will try to get us back to him. So and we also discussed that the law of karma is very intricate. It's very difficult to understand, and we must not put so much of our brains in justifying things as per law of karma, because anyhow we do not know the perspective from the prakriti level, right? So this is all what we discussed. We will quickly go through the purport, and we'll also discuss one more thing, which is how are we controlled and bewildered by the material mode of nature. So first let us go through the purport. Just a second. Yes. So by the time it is loading, if someone has Gita with them, they can start reading. This is a very famous verse, 3.27. Yes, it's who would like to read?
Shall I read, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji.
Words, Mataji. Sloka, Mataji.
Verse, yeah, shlok, and then the translation.
Prakrite kriyamanani gunaya
Prakrite kriyamanani
kriyama gunai karmani sarvasa
gunai karmani sarvasaha
akankara vimutatma
ahankara vimutatma
kartaham iti manyate.
karta manyate. So this is
Synonyms?
translation. Yes, Mataji.
Synonyms: prakriti of material nature, kriyamanani by being all being done, gunai by the mode.
Mataji, directly you can read the translation.
Yes, Mataji. Okay. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada Ki Jai. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of these modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of the activities which are in actually carried out by nature. Purport. Two
Yes.
persons, one in Krishna consciousness and the other in material consciousness, working on the same level, may appear to be working on the same platform, but there is a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person in material consciousness is convinced by false ego and he is the doer of everything. He does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Soul, Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is the symptom of his nescience.
Yes, Mataji. You can wait a minute. So yes, this is the most important thing. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is the symptom of his nascence. So this is the biggest problem that everyone in this material world has, and it is in us also, because we are very normally we are also part of this material world. We are not someone directly coming from spiritual world to elevate the consciousness of everyone, right? Like the acharyas. So we have this tendency of like even while doing the activity, we want to make the noise that okay, I am the one who is doing it, whether it is in spiritual circles or material circles. And we are very much attached to the result, and that is why if let's say if we become successful, then we are like okay, I did it. So throwing party, calling everyone and telling them. One of the instance happened with me when one of my colleague, they separately called me just to tell that they have got a promotion. At that particular moment, when the whole company was in a loss, so no one got any hike or no one got a promotion, but they specifically called to tell that okay, I have still got a promotion, which shows that see, I am such a nice person that when no one got it, I still got it. So no one asked him, but still he wanted to. So then I remembered this verse, right? Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasa ahamkara vimudhatma karta hamiti mannate. We think that I am the doer. So there is when we go wrong. And in spiritual circles also, there is a saying, I don't remember it exactly. The saying is, जब हम when we are doing this, it's in Hindi, कि मेहनत इतनी शांति से करो कि रिजल्ट से आवाज हो, ऐसा कुछ है. I'm not remembering it totally.
Yeah,
So
result
it's
sure
like,
मचा है.
Results sure much hai, right? So basically, when you're endeavoring for something, you should do it so silently. You should be very nicely doing it and without telling everyone. And the result will be told to everyone. You should not be the one who should also be telling about the result. So, but we get very attached that let's say if I have been serving in the kitchen since 2 days, and let's say other Mataji came and she just served for 2 hours, and then everyone is saying, oh, what a sabji this Mataji has made. And at the back of my mind, it will come that, oh, I have been burning in the kitchen since 2 days and no one is taking my name, right? But that mentality in itself is wrong. That creates nuisance, is what Prabhupada is saying. So even when we are coming to spiritual life, we have to leave this sense of identity, this sense of attachment with the result and the activity that we are doing. Specifically, we have to be very cognizant of what we are showcasing even to the devotees. Yeah. So yes, Mataji, you can please continue. He does not.
He does not, the person controlling, he does not know that this gross and subtle body is a creation of material nature under the order of Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna, in Krishna consciousness. The ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Rishikesa, or the master of the senses of the material body, for due to his long misuse of the senses in sense gratification, he is factually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So, yes, so this way, the ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Rishikesha. Rishikesha means the master of the senses. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. So, when we are using our senses for the service of whom? The master of the senses, Krishna, then Bhakti Ruchyate. That will lead us to, that will give us Bhakti. So, this way, Krishna is directly telling us what? Ahankara vimudhatma. So mudha. Krishna is telling us mudha. So whenever, let's say, by even mistake, if we think that, okay, I am the doer, then we always should remember this verse and we must remind ourselves that Krishna will call me mudha. Oh, you fool. You're thinking that you are doing, right? So you would see this very nicely, and I like this particular chapter so much because spirituality is not just about identity and okay, who is Krishna and who am I and who is material nature and how is the time working. No, it also is very practical, right? Because in general, if a person who is not much into spirituality, they just have a vague idea of spiritual life, which is like that, okay, spiritual life means renunciation, and a person who is generally renounced is one who is actually practicing spiritual life, and the person who is renounced is basically how that renunciation comes is he has got this knowledge and he has realized that okay, everything is temporary and material and there is no relation of mind with it, and then they leave everything and they leave their homes and go away. But this chapter, this third chapter of Gita, Krishna directly refuses. He tells that wherever you are, whichever position you are in, you can become a yogi. A grahastha can also become a yogi, a brahmachari can also become a yogi, sannyasi can also become a yogi, vanaprastha can also become a yogi. Why? How? By doing all the activities for Krishna. So this is the chapter which actually starts telling us that how you have to become a sadhu. Like if I want to, everyone in spiritual life, why have we come to spiritual life is we all want to become sadhu, right? And a sadhu is someone who has to understand that each and every activity that he is doing, it is only for the pleasure of the Lord. But it will not start suddenly when I go out of the house and I go to forest and I start living like a sadhu. It starts from now itself. From now itself, if I start acknowledging small things that Krishna has given me, if we become grateful, and whatever we have got, if we are using it in the service of Krishna, then by slowly, because there would be different circumstances that would come in our life, favorable and unfavorable. In those circumstances, when we start remembering Krishna and we remember that okay, this is my testing time, I must prove to Krishna that Krishna, I'm yours, I want to be with you back, right? So then by practicing in day-to-day life, then eventually we will become fully renounced and totally attached to Krishna. Bhakti yoga, renunciation is not a big thing in Bhakti yoga. Srila Prabhupada has told us Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya is you use each and everything in the service of the Lord. You use all your senses in the service of the Lord. By default, the renunciation will start coming in. So as we get attached to Krishna, we become detached to the lower material things. Okay, so this is the chapter where practical Krishna consciousness begins. Okay, so I told you that we will discuss on how the living entity is bewildered by the material modes of nature. In this last verse, Prakriti Kriya Manani. So Prakriti, we discussed that Prakriti is the material nature who is basically governing the law of karma, right? So this particular image you would have seen in Bhagavad Gita. It's very famous, where we see that Lord Krishna is the original, he is the supreme Lord, and he controls the Prakriti. And Prakriti is basically constituted of the three modes: mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And how the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance is basically controlling the soul. It is directing the soul, even the desires of the soul are being directed by these modes. So we will see how this happens because this is very important on the Tattva perspective. So anyone would like to read? Okay. कृष्ण भूलिया जीव भोग वांछा करे Yes, Mataji.
हाँ, हरे कृष्ण। कृष्ण भूलिया जीवा भोग वांछा करे फसते माया तरे जपतिये घरे प्रेम विवर्ता।
But Yadhare.
As soon as the soul,
Yes. So this particular verse, what it says is Krishna bhuliya jiva bhoga vancha kare. So Jeev has forgotten Krishna and they want to enjoy. They want to enjoy bhoga vancha kare. They want to enjoy all these things for their own pleasure. And what happens at that very moment? Pasate maya tare jhapatiya dhare. So Maya at that moment itself it captures us. Right? So yes, Madaji, please continue.
as soon as the soul desire to be enjoyer, then he is immediately captured by Maya. All living beings in this material world are conditioned by three modes. Like if you are bound by the rope, you can't work properly. Similarly, these three modes have bound the soul. Soul is encaged by these three ropes. One rope is mode of goodness, other rope is mode of passion, and the third rope is mode of ignorance. The soul comes in contact with a particular mode of material nature and acts accordingly, being conditioned. If you associate with a drunkard, immediately you will behave like a drunkard. If you associate with a saintly person, you will behave like a saintly person. We seek happiness on the material platform according to the modes we are conditioned by, and we are forced to act helplessly according to the impulses born of the modes of nature. Everybody says, I have a free will. But the fact is that the moment was we exercise our free will to be in Maya, all our actions are guided by three modes of material nature.
Yes, just a
That
minute, Mataji. So very nicely here, what we understand is that we are so much conditioned by these modes of nature that we act according to the modes of nature, but we do not come to know. Right? We think that I am doing a particular activity, I am having free will, I can desire and I can get whatever I want to. But we don't understand that, first of all, the moment we are not wanting to satisfy Krishna, by default we are captured by the modes. Now, based on which mode I am in, I will have those type of desires. For example, if a person is in mode of goodness, by default he would want to wake up early, okay, go for a walk, do surya namaskar, these type of activities, right? Go to temple, get a bath early, have good healthy food. So these are all characteristic of a person who is in the mode of goodness. But how it happens is because that particular mode is prevalent on him. Now let's say in the other part of the day when he's working outside, he's going to his office, and out of based on the karma, let's say the boss insults him in front of many people. At that point of time, that passion will take over. He'll become very angry and he would want to say so many things and he would be extremely frustrated. So based on different times, based on his activities, he would be controlled by different modes. So it's not like we can control our desire. Many people think, right, that okay, if every desire should be for the pleasure of Krishna, okay, we will have all the desires molded in that way. But that will not happen unless and until we struggle to satisfy Krishna, and then we would be coming out of these three modes. Yes, Mandaji, please continue the last paragraph.
so, Mataji, can these modes of nature at the same time can work on the same person?
All the
All the
modes are
three?
acting at the same time on all the person. So it's not always like only goodness is acting or only passion is acting or only ignorance. It's a combination. See, passion and ignorance is something which is almost all the time together, right? Because if we are not into the mode of goodness very nicely, then by default we are in passion or ignorance. So there is a mixture of these modes which are happening at the same time,
Okay.
and it is happening on everyone.
Okay.
Only a transcendental person who is self-realized, who has actually like when we see Srila Prabhupada, when we see all the disciples of Prabhupada who are continuously working every day and day out, every moment they are just doing everything for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. So by their activities, we can easily understand that they have transcended these modes. At any point of time, they are not agitated by any wrongdoings of others. Even when their own disciples commit very big mistakes, they are still very sober. They are still able to understand that okay, how that particular person has got into Maya, and they still pray to Krishna that please protect him. right? So this is how a transcendental person, like we are all, for example, if I've got that what we say, mohatkadi, police, if a police has got me and they have, hmm? Okay, so basically, if I am handcuffed and there is another person who is also handcuffed, so now I cannot help him and he cannot help him. But a person who is not handcuffed, who is free, only that particular person would be able to free us both, right? Similarly, why we need a guru is because a guru has transcended these modes. He's not handcuffed, he's not caught up by these modes. So only a guru, he would be able to release us, right? And that is why a guru is very important. Bona fide guru is very important in spiritual life. Yes, Mataji.
Yes. That means we are not acting, but all our actions are guided by the moods. By surrendering to Maya, the way we put ourselves in different situations. That situation decides for us. First, that situation
All that.
decides for us all that we are having, all that is happening to us. If you are addicted to computer games, then the computer games, not you, will decide when you will go to bed. But if you become Krishna conscious, then you will derive ability. When you use your free will to surrender to Krishna, your actions are guided by sadhu, guru, and shastra, scriptures. Then you will see your own free will. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. So we see so nicely here it is explained that when we are actually surrendering to Maya, whatever we are desiring, we don't even come to know that that particular thing is controlling us. And here that example of computer games is given. Similarly, mobile as well. So if we are addicted to computer game, then it will decide when we will go to bed, not we, right? So similarly, we don't come to know that, okay, whatever I'm desiring, it's basically based on the modes I have acquired, modes I have been controlled by. So it's not my free will. We think that this is our free will, but that is really not your free will. Okay. So this independence and dependence has to be understood very nicely. Person who is thinking that I'm totally independent, but he is not spiritually elevated. He has not elevated his consciousness in Krishna, in surrendering to Krishna. Then that particular person is always dependent on Maya. And that person doesn't even come to know. So that is the biggest illusion, right? We have been put into this world, this jail, but we have become so comfortable in this jail that we don't want to come out. That is the biggest illusion, right? We want to become comfortable. Okay, I'm in this jail. Okay, let me bring in AC so that I can sleep comfortably. Let me bring in some fridge so that I'll have some cooling food. So we are trying to make the jail comfortable, but then we are not realizing that anyhow it is jail. I will anyhow be beaten up. So the biggest thing I can do for myself is go out of this jail, right? But uh, see, Bhagavad Gita is important to understand the principles, the tattva. Here, when we are reading all of this, then we actually come to know that okay, it's not in my hands so much. Even if I think that I will do everything, but I can see that okay, I'm so much controlled, right? So then we become very prayerful in front of Krishna. When I used to initially hear His Grace Anand Vrindavan Prabhu, he used to say, we should go in front of Krishna and we should say, we are hopeless, we are helpless, I cannot do anything on my own, I'm totally helpless, I'm totally hopeless. I used to think, how are we hopeless? Matlab, okay, we can do something for Krishna. It's not like we are totally hopeless or I cannot do anything, right? So, but then when we read Bhagavad Gita, then when we understand the principle, then we understand that yes, we are hopeless. Yes, we are helpless. We are so much bound up by material nature and we don't even come to know. So then we become very prayerful in front of Krishna that Krishna, you please help me. I cannot help myself. Right? And then Krishna helps us. So spiritual life is deep. It's very deep and it's very beautiful. When we are understanding our situation that we are helpless, it does not make us morose. It helps us. We become excited that see, Krishna has already told this, and okay, I can see this working now. And then I would know that okay, yes, Krishna, I want to be with you. Right? I want to surrender unto you. So this is how the living entity is bewildered by the material modes of nature. Okay, so let us go to the next verse. Yes. Who would like to read this time? So in this 28th verse, Krishna is telling basically that the person in knowledge, how he deals, how he is basically able to understand all of this, right? So yes, who would like to read it?
Shall I, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Tattvavit Maha Baho
Tattva Vittu Mahabhahu
Guna Karma Vibhagayaha Gayaho
Gunakarmavibhagayoho
Guna Guneshu Vartante
गुणागुणेषु वर्तन्ते
Gunagunavartanta
Iti Matva na Sajjate.
Dhimatva
ज्ञान सज्जते.
Translation. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, O mighty armed, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So here, very, very nicely, Krishna tells Arjuna, first of all, he uses the word Mahabaho, or mighty armed one, right? So why he's saying that you are the mighty armed, O Arjuna. You with this might, you should also understand that how you should not be engaging your senses in sense gratification, and how you will know that, because you will have the knowledge of the difference between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. What we have discussed before, work in devotion is basically bhakti yoga, and work for fruitive results is basically karma yoga. Okay? Yes, Mataji, you can read the purport.
Purport. The knower of the absolute truth is convinced of his awkward position in material association. He knows that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and that his position should not be in the material creation. He knows his real identity as part and parcel of the Supreme, who is eternal bliss and knowledge. And he realizes that somehow or other he is entrapped in the material conception of life. In his pure state of existence, he is meant to dovetail his activities in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of the Godhead Krishna. He therefore engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness and becomes naturally unattached to the activities of the material senses, which are all circumstantially and temporary. He knows that his material condition of life is under the supreme control of the Lord. Consequently, he is not disturbed by all the kinds of the material reactions, which he considered to be the mercy of Lord. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, one who knows the absolute truth in three different features, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Supreme Personality of the Godhead, is called Tattvavit, for he knows all his own factual position in relationship with the Supreme. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So basically, what do you mean by Tattvavit? Tattvavit is a person who has knowledge of his relationship with Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what all he knows is basically what Prabhupada tells in this purport. We'll see what all this particular person knows. He knows, first of all, he knows that the absolute truth is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. These are the three aspects of absolute truth. Then he knows his own position. How is he convinced of his awkward position in material association? He knows, first of all, that he's controlled by the three modes of material nature. And the more he tries to enjoy is the more he suffers. This is the biggest knowledge which needs to be understood. And then how he is stuck in this cycle of birth and death, changing bodies every now and then, just because he's having so many desires. And thus, he feels awkward in this place. Right, Srila Prabhupada, this first sentence, that he feels, he's convinced of his awkward position. So how is he convinced? These are the points based on which he's convinced. And then he realizes that his eternal home is Vaikuntha. Yes, this is all we just read, that he knows that he's part of Krishna. He realizes that somehow he's trapped here. And because of that, because of this knowledge, then what he does is he engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness and naturally becomes unattached to the activities of material senses, which are circumstantial and temporary. So we discussed this once before, that when we become attached to Krishna, then by default we become unattached to the material temporary things. So how that happens? We discussed this example of that when you give a banana to the monkey will leave your belongings. Why? Because he has got a higher taste. So this particular verse we discussed in second chapter. Param drishtva nivartate. Right? So when you get a higher taste, you by default leave the lower taste. So this is how a Krishna conscious person is able to, even after there are so many compulsions, so many forces on him by the modes of nature, he's still able to desire and control his senses and engage them in the service of Krishna. Right? It's not so easy. Prakriti kriya manani. This Prakriti, this material nature is energy of Krishna. So this energy of Krishna has similar energy, similar powers as Krishna. So if we think that by our own power we would be able to defeat Maya, that's not possible. It is only by the grace of Krishna. So when we are desiring, even when we are desiring to go to temple, to associate with devotees, to serve them, that desire is so powerful, right? That particular desire is transcendental. So because it is transcendental, by the power of that transcendental desire, we would be able to overcome these like callings of the senses, these cravings for the sense objects, right? So this way, this person is able to engage himself in Krishna, and therefore he is called what? Tattvavit, the person in knowledge. Okay, so let us move ahead to 29th verse. The 29th verse is very similar to 26th verse. Actually, if you see, they are almost similar. And what it says is that a person in knowledge generally does not disturb one who is ignorant, one who is moodha. Again, Krishna would use the word moodha here, right? Prakriti guna sammudha. Yes, who would like to read this?
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I read?
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Please read.
Prakrute guna sammudha
Prakrite
Prakrite
guna
guna
sammudha
sammudha
sajjante guna karmasu
sajjante
sajjate
guna karmasu
karmasu
tana kritsna vido mandan
tan
tana
akritsna vidumanna
mandan
kritsna vinna vichalayet.
kritsna vinna vichale.
Translation by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, though these duties are inferior to the performer's lack of knowledge.
Yes, just a minute, Mataji. So very
Yes,
nicely, Krishna. What happens is, see, it is our by default nature to be Krishna conscious. It's like when a fish is in the water, it's most happy. So when we are Krishna conscious, we are most happy. But we have forgotten that. And we are so forgotten, we are so happy, we are trying to be so-called happy in this material world and engaging ourselves in material activities, that we are totally forgetful of Krishna. So what Krishna tells is he doesn't want such people. Now tell me, would you like a person who does not gel up in your family to come in your family? No, right? The whole purpose of marriage and having so many meetings is to have a person who gels up here, right? So similarly, Krishna would not want a person who is not of the similar qualities as that of devotees to come to Goloka and disturb the whole Golok Vrindavan, right? So we cannot enter Golok. That is what he's saying. What he's saying is, this particular verse is Krishna telling his devotees that you don't go and unsettle them, right? Don't go and disturb these people, right? So this is what he's saying. Bewildered by modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to performers' lack of knowledge. Okay. So we know, like, let's say we have come into Krishna consciousness. Now, let's say we see someone doing some kind of activity which is not good, right? Which he should not be doing. So if we try to tell him, oh, you should not, let's say if a person is too attached to working, okay, and he is all day 24/7, he's working and working, and he's trying to just make more and more money. Now, let's say if we have come to Krishna consciousness and we think that, oh, this your energy only to get some money. You are working like an ass and you're getting some little carrot as your salary. So instead, you should be using your senses and energies in service of Krishna. But what will happen is this will disturb them. Let's say this person is very attached to his results of, let's say, promotion or hike or whatever. So because of that money, he is able to be happy in his family life. He is able to give facilities to his family. So he's very attached to that job and everything. Now, if you go and disturb him, what will happen? He has not got an attachment to Krishna yet. He is not attached to Krishna yet. And to whatever thing he was attached to, you have make him unattached to that thing also. Now he becomes a confused fellow that, okay, what should I do? If I should not be working so much, then what should I be doing? Right? So a devotee, a preacher is very well versed in Shastra, as well as he's also very well versed in how to engage people. How we see Srila Prabhupada. He engaged each and every person. He engaged a smoker, a drinker, right? Everyone. He engaged George Harrison Prabhu in singing for Krishna. He engaged other types of devotees. Someone who knows painting, Prabhupada empowered him to paint Krishna's Leelas, right? So this is how a devotee knows how to engage someone. Let's say if a person says, let's say if someone is very attached to dancing. Now, if you tell them, oh, dancing is very bad, you should not be dancing in so many people in front of so many people, and why are you dancing on these material tunes and this and that? Suddenly, that person cannot leave dancing. He has been doing it since childhood, so he's very attached to dancing. Now, but if you tell him that, okay, if you try to dance for Krishna's satisfaction, then he will not be so disturbed because he's using his talent, he's using his um inclinations for the service of Krishna. And by doing that, he will gradually make progress. He will gradually want to become more Krishna conscious, right? If you tell him after some time that, okay, you should also start chanting one round, he would be able to get that instruction. He would be able to take it. But if you first tell him that, okay, you should not be dancing, you should be not be doing this, not be doing that, he would be like, oh, this person is mad, I don't want to associate with him. That chapter finished. You cannot even tell him about chanting, you cannot tell him about Krishna, right? So we have to be very much clever on how we have to engage people. Right. So this particular verse is that. Okay. Yes, Mataji, you can read the purport.
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Persons who are unknowledgeable falsely identify with gross material consciousness and are full of material designations. This body is a gift of the material nature, and one who is too much attached to the bodily consciousness is called manda, or a lazy person without understanding of spirit soul. Ignorant men think of the body as a self. They accept bodily connections with others as kinsmanship. The land in which the body is obtained is their object of worship, and they consider the formalities of religious rituals to be ends in themselves. Social work, nationalism, and altruism are some of the activities for such materially designated persons. Under the spell of such designations, they are always busy in the material field. For them, spiritual realization is a myth, and so they are not interested. Those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate such materially engrossed persons. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principles of life as non-violence and similar materially benevolent work.
Yes, one thing.
Men,
Here one thing was shared by His Grace Amog Leela Prabhuji once. What happened when he started going to temple? So there are many changes that happen in us, right? Which generally the people around us they notice. They notice once we start going to temple. So they are the ones who would first try to come and counsel us. So this young boy is becoming too attached to going to temple at this age. He should not be doing so. Once when he was coming back, so in the road he met a person of his society, and that person said that, Are, why are you doing all these activities in this age? Is this an age? Spiritual life is for the old people. You have so much time now. You should try to engage for these spiritual activities after. Now is the time to work. Now is the time to enjoy. All these things he was counseling. Now, what he himself was doing, he was smoking a cigarette. So what His Grace Amulya Prabhuji did is, this person was already of the age of 50 plus. Okay, so Prabhuji said, okay, you take this Gita, I will take your cigarette, I will smoke, and you read the Gita. He said, no, 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 no. So this is how what happens, right? People are so much attached, so much conditioned, that they are not able to understand the value of spiritual life. And here what Prabhupada is telling us, that better to prosecute one's own spiritual activity silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principles of life, such as non-violence and similar materially benevolent work. Even people who are too much into this philanthropic work of giving donations, establishing schools, establishing hospitals and all. Even when a temple is constructed, they are the first people to say, okay, why are you constructing a temple? Better you construct a hospital, or better you construct a education center, right? But they do not understand that the highest education is what comes from this temple. The highest patients that are being cured are because of the temples. Why? Because the actual disease that we are having, the disease that because of which we have taken birth here, that disease can only be cured in a temple. No hospital in the whole world can cure that disease. Similarly, whatever material education has been given to us, that will make us get bound more and more bound up in this world. So only a spiritual education can make us really come out of this material world. So all these philanthropic work, all of these benevolent type of works that people are attached to, why they are attached, if you see in one sense, they are basically attached to the result of it. How? Because they know that, okay, if I'm giving so much of donation, people would be recognizing me. Oh, such a nice person. He gives so many donations all the time. He's such a benevolent person, and this and that, right? So this reputation, this fame that he gets out of that activity, this is what he's attached to. So instead of, he is having less compassion and more desire for fame, right? So this is therefore this is also wrong. Many people in the mode of goodness, they are much attached to all these things. So that is good, they are in the goodness, but we have to transcend even goodness, right? Krishna consciousness is beyond goodness, passion, and ignorance. It's not part of goodness. But yes, goodness helps us to understand Krishna. Because if you are in passion and ignorance, it's not that easy to understand spiritual life. But if we come to the mode of goodness, then it becomes easier. Yes. Yes, Mataji, please continue.
Yeah. Men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. Thank you,
This
Mataji. Hare
verse,
Krishna.
thank you, Mataji. This verse is very much the personification of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. That Krishna is telling that don't go and disturb them. Krishna is telling that just leave them, they are of no use. But devotees still go. And what Prabhupada is mentioning, but the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord, because they understand the purpose of the Lord. So the biggest, and this is the biggest example that we see, that even though Krishna is saying that don't go and disturb them, still when Krishna himself comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is coming in the mood of Radharani. Who is Radharani? She is the highest devotee of the Lord, right? Among all the devotees, Srimati Radharani is the highest. Now, when the Lord himself is coming in the mood of Radharani, he is sending Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur to preach to people who are ignorant, who are drunkards, who are totally attached to material life. You please go and give them Krishna. So this is the mood of Radharani. We see we have got Krishna consciousness. This is by the mercy of Radharani, by the mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, that Srila Prabhupada came in our life. Because if you see, there is no difference between a materialistic person, and I would talk about myself instead, that there is no difference between a materially attached person and myself, because I was also of the same category. There was no eligibility that I would get Krishna. If Krishna rejects people who are too attached to material life, then I was also equally materially attached. What makes me eligible for Krishna is nothing. It is just the mercy of devotees. We are not anything in spiritual life. We are just a product of mercy. This we have to understand, because the eligibility of spiritual life no one has in Kali Yuga. So if the preachers, if the devotees would not have come in our life, there was no chance that we could have understood this, right? So this is what Prabhupada is saying, that the devotees of the Lord are more kind because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Let's say a father may say that if his son goes away from home and he comes to know that, okay, this person is loitering here and there, he's struggling, he's not even getting money, he's not even having food for eating twice a day. So what his father says, he's such a fool. I've told him so many times he doesn't want to come. Don't go and disturb him. Just let him be. So this is what the father is saying. But what is his purpose? The father still wants the child to come back, right? He still wants that, oh, my child, you would be happy when you come back to me. This is the mood of Krishna. When he's saying these words that don't go and disturb him, he is like, oh, just please don't go. How many times I've given Shastra, I've come myself in this material world. I've given so many things. I'm giving him all the facilities, right? He's breathing so much of air every day, every moment, and he still doesn't realize that he should be grateful to me, right? But then when Krishna says this, his intention is still, he still wants us to come back to him. So this purpose is only understood by devotees. Also, you would see that Bhagavad Gita is such a secret, it's an open secret. If someone just reads Bhagavad Gita, he would not be able to understand so much. But when Srila Prabhupada gave these transcendental purports, many people just by reading Bhagavad Gita, they became Krishna conscious. They immediately tried to get in association, and then they immediately took up to spiritual life very fast. So why? Because by the mercy of a devotee only we can understand Krishna. Even Krishna's instructions are openly available. Anyone can get a Bhagavad Gita everywhere, right? But you try and read Bhagavad Gita on your own, you would not be able to get these secrets. These secrets will be revealed only by devotees. And we are fortunate to get the mercy of Prabhupada through these purports. So yes, this is the purpose of the Lord. And consequently, they undertake all kinds of risk, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. When Prabhupada was going for this mission outside India, everyone told him, even his godbrothers told him, we have tried it, it's not possible. They are extremely sinful. They cannot take up to spiritual life. It's very tough. So everyone told him that it's impossible. It is impossible. And for a person who is not having money, who is already at the age of 70, for such a person, it's you cannot even dream of doing it, right? But Srila Prabhupada still did it. So this tells us that how much compassion, how much mercy is he having. Now let us come to the 30th verse, which is yes, Shampriya Mataji, you have a question?
Yes, Mataji. Just a small doubt. It says men who are ignorant cannot appreciate Krishna activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna says, "Do not disturb them." So then it is said,
Yes,
but
what
devotees are more kind. But is it not that in the offense to the 10 offense to the holy name, the ninth one says that we should not be instructing a faithless person for the glories of the holy name. So how do we deal with it, devotees?
Yes, so that's what. So that which I was telling you initially, right? That we must know the tactics of doing it. So you should not be doing it so in a harsh way that they become reluctant to spiritual life. A very nice example is to give them prasadam. Prasadam is a soft weapon. They don't even come to know, right? So when we give them prasadam, but slowly, they develop the sukriti. And based on that sukriti, they are able to come to Krishna eventually, right? So when Krishna is saying that don't disturb them, and when in the ninth offense it is said that do not instruct a faithless person, is that don't instruct them directly on the glories of holy name. Okay, if a person is too attached to material life, you would see this. There are many people who would go to some sadhus. If the sadhu tells them that on Thursday at 4 a.m. in the morning, you wear this ring and go to the northeast and chant this mantra, and you like do some or the other some things, then at this point of time, on this day, you do this, you do that, they would take it up very easily, because what they'll think, if I'll do this, I'll get this. But when you tell them, Nam Nam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti, Krishna has given all his energy in his name. Now, whichever different tactic you do, whatever small power that you get, is nothing in front of chanting holy name, they won't be able to accept it. Why? Because they have not got that Sukriti yet. So a preacher is very much cognizant of how to make this person come to this level to finally accept the statement of Nam Nam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti. Then he will give him the glories of holy name. By that time, he will, what your Prabhupada says, he engages them in devotional service, right? Very cleverly, very politely, you should be engaging them in. Let's say initially, when Shyam Sundar Prabhuji was told by Prabhupada to carve Jagannath deities, so he was smoking a cigarette and he was carving Jagannath deities. Now, Prabhupada very silently, now instead of Prabhupada, if there would have been some other person who is very strict in performing spiritual activities, he would have condemned him and he would have shouted on him, are you mad, are you stupid, you are carving Lord's deities and you are smoking a cigarette, don't you understand this and that. But what would happen, that person would have left Krishna consciousness forever. What Prabhupada did is, he went to him, he talked very softly, and then he said, do you want this one cigarette to come between you and Jagannath? And that one statement was so full of love and compassion that Shyam Sundar Prabhu immediately left smoking from that moment itself. So this is how the compassion of a devotee transforms the hearts of person, but it takes time. It's not like
So,
it will happen very soon.
it is a very long process and one needs to be very patient.
Yes. And it's also, we should also not be attached. Let's say, for example, if let's say I'm taking a class of 20 people, I cannot expect that all 20 of them would be climbing the spiritual ladder with equal speed. It cannot happen, because everyone have their own conditionings, everyone have their own idea, right? And someone might have a very nice association where they can go to temple, they can engage themselves so that they become more and more nourished in spiritual life. Someone might not have any association at all. So they are totally dependent on virtual association. And probably that virtual association might not give them so much nourishment. So everyone is in a different situation. Everyone has a past. But we must understand that because everyone is part of Krishna, Krishna will take care of them. So a preacher should not be attached that all 20 of them should become devotees instantly. No. Someone might become in a year, someone might take 20 years. So it's totally dependent. It's not in our hands. It's between Krishna and that devotee. So and that is why many devotees you would hear that they say that you should not be preaching to your family members. Why?
Yes.
Because family members, that's not the place where you can preach. If you try to preach your family members, they know your bad side, they know your good side. And they will think that, oh, this person has become a sadhu. And if we start preaching to them, they will start telling us, oh, you are trying to follow spiritual life. See how much you become angry. See how much you become frustrated. See how bad you are, right? So they will never ever take to spiritual life from our endeavor. So we have to understand, we have to give them other devotees association, and by Krishna's mercy, they will be taken care of. When we give them prasadam, we can pray to Krishna. Krishna, this person, please give him your love. Please give him your devotee association. By eating this prasadam, my heart should also transform. So this way, slowly the transformation happens.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yes, so this we were discussing that how Prabhupada, and yes, Prabhupada disciples, they used to go in front of bars, and they used to go in front of places where there was intoxication, there were all the four principles were broken. They used to go to such places and they used to distribute Srila Prabhupada books, right? So they could do it. Why? Because they themselves were so strong in Krishna consciousness, and they were following the order of their guru. Right? If a guru knows, the guru knows, basically what happens is the guru knows that, okay, this person is not that strong. If I send him to bar, he himself would be caught up there. He will not come back. So he will not send such a person. Yes, Krishna will give bigger test to person who is more armed, with Krishna consciousness, right? So this way, so Srila Prabhupada had armed his disciples so much that they could even go to such places and they could make them into devotees, right? So, and yes, what Prabhupada says here is, of course, we must take risk for Krishna, but not to the extent it may hamper our own Krishna consciousness, right? We can take a risk as long as it can be managed easily. So, it's not like when we are discussing these examples that Prabhupada's disciple used to go to bars and we should be like, okay, tomorrow I will go to book distribution in front of bar. No, that should not be a case. We should know that our position is what and their position is what.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Mataji, you again have a question?
No, thank you much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, okay. Yes. Okay, so what's the time? Okay, we are 5 minutes up. Do you want to start this 30th verse or okay, this is also an important verse. It's basically this verse is telling the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. So this is also important. I guess we can take it up in the next class. Okay, by the time if anyone has any question, any doubt here, you can discuss. Quickly, if we revise what we discussed was in 27th verse, Krishna says that like ignorant person is thinking that he is the doer. Ahamkara vimodhatma karta ham iti manyate. He's thinking I am the doer, but in reality there are three doers. So that we have discussed in detail. And we have also discussed that how the material nature is bewildering all the living entities. Right? What is the process? How we are getting caught up by the three modes of material nature. Then in 28 and 29, Krishna is telling about a person who is Tattvavit. In 28, he tells that this person is very much cognizant of his awkward position of material life, and he has the knowledge of difference between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. And therefore, he is able to like engage his senses in Krishna consciousness. And in 29th verse, he tells that he is not the one who would go and unsettle the materially attached people, right? And we also discuss a second perspective to it, that the devotees are so kind and so merciful that they go out of their comfort zone and try to make materially attached people as well into devotees. So this is what we covered in a nutshell today. Anyone has any questions? This is the way you should be writing it down also. Like when you are making notes, let's say what you can do, chapter 3. Okay, this section, the slide that we are having, right? Initial slide. So just a second, I'll quickly share again. This one. So what you can do is you can open up this slide. Now, if you read, let's say from 17 to 35 is Nishkam Karme Yoga to set example. So then each and every verse, okay, what is 17 saying? What is 18 saying? What is 19 saying? Okay, then Krishna says that, okay, you should still work. Why you should still work? You should still perform your duty, even if you're liberated. Why? Because you have to set an example. Then he gives the examples of who all have done that. He gives the example of Janak Maharaj. Then he gives his own example that even I am doing it, although I'm not bound by anything. So, and then when he tells that, okay, what will happen if he ever fails to engage? So when you are reading this heading, and then when you read the translation, don't go by purport, just read the translation. So you would be able to see the flow of how the chapter is moving ahead. Okay. Okay, so I guess we are good to close. No more questions. I see a message. Okay, too much noise. No problem, Mataji. You can hear the recording. I'll share the recording link after the class. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for giving me opportunities to glorify Krishna, to glorify this amazing literature. And because of you, I am benefited by speaking, by hearing, and by trying to implement it in my own life. Thank you so much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय। Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji.